Welcome to the Cara Michelle Show, where we break out of the matrix together and return heaven to earth. This is a place for the spiritual seekers and leaders, the dreamers and doers, the conscious creators and world changers. You can expect a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but mostly a whole lot of purpose, freedom, and sovereignty. And of course, all things quantum. May this podcast serve you in remembering the truth of who you are, all that you came here to do, and how deeply supported you are in doing it. You are incredibly powerful and your mission is protected. So it's time to dial up your frequency and recalibrate to your higher self and limitless potential. Get ready, because we're about to blast off. A new reality awaits you on the other side. I'll see you there. Welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to be talking about something really juicy, something that I feel like people tend to get excited about, which is money. And I want to talk specifically about one of my clients having her first $1 million year using quantum healing hypnosis, and how we use different modalities that I'll be sharing in this episode, and just bringing different awareness to you about how money blocks are potentially holding you back. By potentially, I mean like 99% chance, because we all have them. So they're definitely holding you back in some way, from opening up and receiving more, from holding on to more and anchoring it in. There are just so many potential ways that our subconscious beliefs end up sabotaging and causing us to have money stories that we really don't want to have, and then creating realities with money that we really don't want to create. And so I've worked with people who are wanting to just manifest like $1,000 in their business, up into, multiple clients who are working in the million a year realm, or like multiple millions for assets and investments and things that they're creating and wanting to circulate through them. And so it's really interesting because I've seen a big range of like all the scales, I would say, and yet the subconscious beliefs can be really, really similar no matter who it is I'm working with, and no matter what the level of money is that I'm supporting them with connecting to. So with this particular client of mine who I worked with a couple years ago, for months we were working together and doing a lot of different work with the quantum healing hypnosis, and looking at subconscious blocks, looking at things that were stopping her. And a lot of the times it comes down to worthiness. More often than not, we have a story connected to why we don't feel worthy of having more money, why we think it's bad to have what we want or to have more, and we end up sabotaging because of that. And usually this is from childhood, just like majority of our subconscious beliefs. I know for myself, my dad had a very different money mindset than my mom did. My dad would kind of throw money around and almost didn't respect it in that way, because there was always money coming into the business. And even when there wasn't, he still just kind of was very generous with money. And my mom had more of like a lack mindset and a scarcity and a saving, and that it was bad to want more. So there was kind of like shame and stuff from her. So without getting too far into mine on this episode, I know from my own experiences the ways that, yeah, my subconscious beliefs have impacted when I block more money from showing up, and when I open up and allow it to flow in. And I personally believe we live in an abundant universe that wants to provide. I believe in a loving creator who wants to provide, as long as we are in alignment, and as long as we are, living from our hearts and being good people. And I think the more we connect to our authentic truth and follow our unique path, the more we actually unlock abundance from coming in. because I don't believe God wants us to force and hustle in misalignment. I don't believe God wants us to suffer in jobs that are soul crushing or draining just to try to get by. I don't believe God wants us to trade our time and life and energy and happiness for money. I believe God desires us to devote to God, and then God will provide in the way that it is meant to come through. That's my personal belief, and what I've experienced in my own life is the more I devote to God and I follow the path and the guidance I'm getting and what feels good and aligned, then the more I actually open up to receive new levels of abundance. The times when I avoid that and I stay in fear, or I think, oh, I have to stay in this job, or money is only going to come in this way, I usually create a lot more challenges for myself and make a lot of choices from a lower vibe place, from a place of my fear and desperation, and that never leads to a good thing. Like backing a lion into a corner never leads to something good. But giving it the space to like be a lion is amazing. So anyway, with this client and the $1 million mindset, the things that we were anchoring in, she was really cool for me to work with because I grew up with wealth and incredibly lucky. I think probably way more wealthy than I realized. I didn't really think that we had a ton of money because of the different money beliefs I observed, and because I had a few close friends who were much more wealthy than I was and had way more, and all the trips and all the things. And my comparison made me think that we didn't really have much. So my money mindset was always like a little bit more limited, I would say. Whereas this client grew up with a very wealthy family, and so she always had the belief that like there's so much abundance and money loves me and money wants to come into my life, and I just got to receive it and remain open. So it was a really beautiful contrast, and I want to note that at the beginning because that already helped her continue to expand into more. Whereas some people I've worked with, they don't have that abundance mentality, and so you're kind of starting at a different stage, trying to just first believe that like there is abundance because maybe you grew up with very little, and so there's a lot more reprogramming to do first before you can actually truly get behind the belief that like there's a lot of abundance, there's a lot of wealth. Money's literally just printed out of thin air as we speak. Who knows how many millions are being printed right now as you're listening to this around the world, right? In all these different currencies. And it's just paper, and it's just paper that represents energy or represents an energy exchange of services. Like there's just so much weirdness to money when you think about it, but it's definitely available in overflow. It's available in way more than our human minds can even comprehend. So she had this kind of luxury because she already had these beliefs from seeing a lot of money coming in into her life as a child and into her family's reality as she was growing up. So I remember one of the things she actually said to me was just seeing God as the provider of like, oh, God's providing it for me. Like, no doubt. Like, I'm not even worried about it. I just want to remove the things that are in the way. And for me, I was like, whoa, because here I was really in debt actually at that time from different investments, and still paying things off from starting my business. And so I was kind of like, whoa, the level of certainty and confidence she had in being provided for was lacking in my reality because I was like, damn, I don't see that. Meanwhile, I had dug the hole myself, but that's another story. So we started doing different sessions because although she grew up seeing money and abundance like flowing and that it's just there and I just need to be open to receive it. And I know I'm meant to be wealthy and I know I'm meant to help others, uh, accrue, is that the word? Open up to more wealth and like hold more wealth. So she had wealth codes, let's just say that. But there were a lot of blocks in her subconscious around money being bad and money causing problems in family. And this is a woman who was married, she had multiple children, they had some different businesses. So there were multiple businesses being managed, multiple income streams, multiple homes around the world already before having her first $1 million year. But because of the experiences she had with her dad in particular, and seeing certain things that played out in his life, certain stresses, certain problems it brought to the marriage of her mom and dad, then that made her associate more money with more problems or more money with relationships collapsing. And so there was a part of her, and we can even just say right now, speak to it as her inner child who saw this, right? That inner child aspect of her as a grown up still feared that if she had more money, it would translate to the same pattern and it would translate to the same relationship crumbling that she witnessed when her dad made more money. This is a perfect example of how, even without wanting to repeat our parents' patterns, or even without wanting to repeat the cycles, a lot of people do unconsciously because they're not aware of how these beliefs are actually still influencing them and either sabotaging or then repeating the cycle, right? Because if she hadn't become aware and if we hadn't done the work to shift these beliefs, she might have still tapped into the $1 million year, but then she would have still had this fearful belief within her, right? This inner child constantly shouting and saying, but it's not safe, and now your marriage is going to be ruined, your family's going to be ruined, you don't want your kids to go through the same thing you went through. This voice of panic and anxiety. And that usually causes us to then act from that place and create that reality. And she could have created the exact same thing. Or vice versa, that voice could have shouted so loud that it blocked her from opening up, and she never could have hit the $1 million year because it felt safer to have less, because more meant strained relationships or strained marriage. Can you see how every single belief, and not in an overwhelming way, because now I don't want people to be like paranoid about, oh my gosh, there's all these things, but it's just really powerful to see that every single belief is playing out and impacting in a certain way. And so when you have a tool like hypnosis, when you're able to understand your subconscious and communicate with it, even if you don't try the quantum healing hypnosis, but you use meditation or you use breath work or you work on connecting deeper to your intuition and your higher self and to God, and you start to open up more to just seeing and hearing these things and realizing, this is actually a pattern, or this is actually a limiting belief, or this is actually like an inner child fear coming up, right? You're able to then change, and that's how we shift the pattern, or that's how we break out of repeating the cycle we don't want to repeat. So if you're wanting to scale and reach that next level, whether that's hitting a 10K, 50K, 100K year, whether that's hitting a million, 2 million, 100 million a year, like the money and the number itself doesn't actually mean anything. The number is relative to you. If you think $100,000 a year is a lot, you're going to attach certain stresses, certain pressures to that number. And therefore, you're going to create certain blocks or make it more complicated or hold yourself back or sabotage. Whereas you might have grown up like this client of mine, seeing a lot of abundance. And so $100,000 a year was just easy. It was like no big deal. It was expected as a normal, or like the lowest thing she could imagine would be making that much a year, because she's been making 500,000 for so many years in a row, right? It's all relative. The number and the income, or the amount of money you're wanting to call in, is very much relative to who you think you are. Which leads me into the second part of this with her. It's about the identity creation, and it's about seeing the identity of the $1 million year. What is that? What does that look like? What does that feel like? How do I hold myself? Who do I surround myself with? How do I show up in the world? How do I dress? How do I eat? How do I think? How do I speak? How do I act? All the details. The $1 million year version of her was an identity. And we can say that in a parallel reality, that version of her already existed. So she's just wanting to translate and bring it into the present moment. Or we can look at it the way I typically do, of her higher self already had reached that goal. Her higher self, and this multi-dimensional version of her who's lived all the lifetimes, learned all the lessons, collected all the experiences, and is like fully whole and sovereign and one with God, and like knows her whole power. That version of her would not have any fears or doubts or worries about $1 million year. That version of her would have no separation from $1 million year. That version of her would already be, and it would be natural and normal and easy. Just like there is a version of you who maybe once thought $5,000 was an insane amount of money. I know I used to think that was a crazy amount of money. So a version, I'll share my own example instead of trying to put numbers into your reality or into your mouth. But the version of me who thought a 10K month in my business was massive, and was like putting it on a pedestal because I'd never done it, but all the coaches were talking about it, and I was a new coach, and I just wanted to hit that 10K month because that would mean I'd made it. Like that was the story I had. I had so many different beliefs and narratives about a 10K month and what that would mean for me. And the version of me then was not even making $1,000 a month. So like a 10K month was a different identity. It was a totally different version of me. And so what I was doing without realizing it was starting to think and act as if I already had it, to reverse engineer and to become the identity first, so that then I was acting and showing up as if I already had the 10K. Instead of doing all the busy work behind the scenes, I was like operating in the areas of my business that I loved. I hired an assistant before I even had the money to do so, because I was like, if I had 10K, I would have someone doing this job, and that would speed things up. And it's kind of like collapsing time by becoming that future identity first. So for my client, or no, first for me, then when I hit 10K, I realized, oh, well, actually, like the 10K is great and it's really nice, but nothing actually really changed. Like, I did it a few times and then I kind of realized, well, now what's next? And not from a lack of gratitude, but more just because that's what we are here to do on earth, is to constantly expand and grow. So then it became, okay, well, what would the next level be? And how do I collapse the time to become that? What would I show up for that reality? And it's the exact same for her. Let's say she was at 500K a year. She had created a very solid identity of that version of her. She had done it multiple times. She knew it was possible. It felt normal. It felt really anchored in. It didn't feel weird. She didn't have unworthiness around it. She wasn't on a roller coaster, making it, losing it, making it, losing it, at least not from what I was aware of. So that identity was very solid. It was very grounded into the 3D reality because she had done it so much. And when she wanted to manifest the $1 million year, that was a new identity. That was a new version of her. So, as I said, all the things needed to change. And on a subconscious level, we started to work on what would that look like and how can we program in these beliefs of like, since the $1 million year is already done, since that's my normal, here's what I would do next, or here's where I'd be putting my energy, my time, my focus, right? All of the things that become the match for the desired reality so that she could normalize it and not only print it into the deep, dark confines of the subconscious, but feel it in her body, feel that as like her vortex that she's magnetizing, and this is just who I am, and this is how good it gets to be until it happened. And the beautiful thing is when you do this work ahead of time, when you create it, because you will, if you do this work, you're guaranteed to create it. I can't guarantee the timeline it happens. Some people it happens very quickly, others it takes longer. I think that depends on the lessons as well as the potential blocks, and your unique path. Like I had certain lessons I needed to learn, and so some things didn't manifest nearly as quickly as I thought they would or as I believe they could have. But anyway, it's guaranteed it will show up if you do this and you stay aligned to it. And when you do this work on the subconscious and in the energetic realm first, when it shows up in the physical, you're prepared for it. So it's almost like how, when someone's pregnant, they're preparing for 9 months for the baby. They're creating the space, they're setting the stage, they're starting to let go of the old self and the freedom that they had, and they're preparing for what it's going to look like to be a mother and to care for this new life. And they're painting the baby room and getting all the cute things together, right? They're preparing so that when the baby comes, it's like, oh yeah, it's here. And it's not like as much of a shock, maybe, because you've got the physical space ready for it. And you've been doing the mental, emotional, energetic alignment as well to get ready for it. And that's kind of like a good example of how we do this with the quantum healing hypnosis and how your subconscious works too. Because when you prime the space in your subconscious, then when it shows up, you're not afraid of losing it, or you're not like, this is too good to be true, and like now I sabotage, or you're not like, I don't deserve it, because you've spent so long normalizing it and creating this cohesion, this oneness, this unification, that it's kind of like, oh, of course. So when the $1 million year came for her, it was like, yeah, of course it did. Like, I'm grateful and I'm excited about it, but I'm not surprised because I could feel it and I was anchoring it in so deeply. So I knew it was going to happen. And like now it's here. And it gets to almost feel relaxed and it gets to feel that easy. And when I think of all the different times I've created things, it kind of you're enjoying the journey and you're building the excitement up beforehand because you know it's inevitable. And as you program that into your subconscious, and as you start to create that energetic signature or that vortex, as I said, almost like this vortex of wealth. And I have a free money hypnosis, a quantum hypnosis. It's linked in the description. You can start there because it's beautiful at helping you create a new energetic blueprint and template for your energy body so that you can start to feel that like you're magnetizing this and you're anchoring it in across all time, space, dimensions, and realities to a point where you can just be like, I'm abundant and I was always abundant, and I can see and feel it in my past. I see and feel it in my present. I see and feel it in the future. It's just the core truth of who I am. And so now tomorrow, when all of a sudden you get an unexpected raise, or there's money in the bank, or something shows up, or a new client, a new sale, a big, huge money thing, you win the lottery, who knows what it is, you're just like, yeah, of course. Like, it's amazing. But there's no like limitation, fear, lack, hesitation, sabotage. You've printed it, and in fact, you've just actually returned. So it's not even about becoming someone you're not, it's really about returning to the divine inheritance and the baseline, which is going to lead me into the last point I'll say on this topic. One of the things we also did with the quantum work for her that helped so much was anchoring her business into God and seeing that like it's not just about her, because sometimes that's where people, the ego can get involved and it can get confusing, and then we can feel the guilt or shame about having more and not being worthy, all the ego stories. But it was like, this is God's wealth and this is God's business, and I'm literally just a vessel. So I can just be the conduit, I can be the channel that this money moves through, and it allows me to then support more people, to serve bigger, to have more for my family, to inspire others and show them that abundance like this exists, and to, be that beacon or whatever, that messenger. But anchoring in the fact that like it's not about her, and it's not about, yeah, her ego or her being better than, or her having this wealth and like looking down on others, or this kind of competition. It's more like, this is God's abundance and there's more than enough for all of us, and I want to help continue to show that and anchor that and support others with doing that. And for me personally, that's always really big for myself, because even after years and years of doing the mindset work and the belief shifting, like a decade plus, and 3 years now of the quantum healing hypnosis, there are still certain beliefs that my ego has about more money. And I have to remind myself, because otherwise those beliefs will get in the way, is like, it's not actually about me as in Kara, it's me as in like a divine being who is here to change the way that money systems work on the earth. And I'm here to bring more freedom to people, and I'm here to help money circulate in better ways, because I believe that there is more than enough and that we all deserve to have all the things. It's not about just having our basic needs met. I believe in like overflow, and it exists. It's possible. It's just about getting it in the right hands. And that hasn't been the case on the planet for a long time, but we're shifting out of that, thankfully. I believe fully. So for me, it's very much about, okay, like, God, keep moving through me, move through me, bring the abundance. I'm surrendering to you. I'll be the channel. Guide me where I'm meant to go. Keep bringing the guidance of how I'm meant to show up, what I'm meant to serve and share, and let me be the channel. And I'm going to hand my finances over to you, because I've made some poor decisions with them in the past. And I don't want to block myself because of that. And you just know, like, I'm open to what you're meant to bring in, or what you're going to bring through me, and I'm so grateful for all of it, right? That's kind of what I have done. And then seeing that my business is something that is changing the planet, because I'm empowering other people and helping them break free and do all the things that they're here to do, and live their highest excitement and highest purpose and timeline. And so, like, of course, I get to be compensated for that, just like you get to be compensated for sharing your gifts, and other people get to be compensated for what they're doing, right? It's like there's more than enough for all of us to be compensated. So when you see that it's not like your wealth and your money and you don't need to cling to it, or it's not like the economy, and the economy can crash and all these things can control it. It's like actually the ultimate provider and the ultimate one in control of everything is God. So if you can make peace with God and get on the right terms and be open for the guidance and be open for what is your divine birthright, you're going to receive more than you could ever possibly imagine, because I guarantee God wants way more for you than your limiting beliefs or your unworthiness let you think. So handing that over and then grounding that in of like, let me be this vessel for God's wealth. It's God's wealth that I'm printing into the grid. It's God's wealth that I'm bringing in to disrupt the matrix and change the systems. It goes so far when you start to see it that way, and it takes a lot of pressure and weight off your human shoulders, thinking that you have to do it all on your own, or even that you have to clear every single subconscious block in order to do it, right? It's not about that. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being the best version of you that you can be in that moment, and being open for what's meant to come your way to move in, being open for that abundance to flow through if it's meant to, and realizing that it wouldn't come into you and into your life if you weren't worthy of it. So you don't need to have any of those old stories that cause you to sabotage or push it away, right? So these were three, I think I summarized in kind of three key things that this client did to have her first $1 million year, because it allowed her to really start to see herself in a totally new way, continue to normalize that new level of money, and realize that it was healthy and positive and it wasn't going to disrupt the family dynamic and the beautiful marriage and, children and home life that she had created up until that point. It allowed her subconscious to feel safe, to have more and to hold on to more without feeling like there had to be a sacrifice, without thinking, oh, I can have the money, but then I can't have the family. And I had that same belief because I saw my parents' marriage fall apart, and my dad chose business and work over family. And so I had a lot of beliefs that, you can't have both. It's one or the other. And I constantly work on those to realize, no, actually, I think I get to have it all if I'm open to it, if I allow it, and if God wants it for me. So now I focus on what are the highest excitement? What is that timeline? What would that look like? What am I wanting to open up to and create now? And how can I step into that identity already to allow that to flow through and let it be normal, so that it gets to the point where when it does show up, you're just like, yeah, of course. Your certainty is there of like, I knew it. I knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time and a matter of alignment. But I held the course, I held the vision, and I kept showing up from that version of me. And so it is guaranteed that it's going to come into alignment at some point. So, with that said, I'm going to end this episode here. I did mention it, but yes, there is a free quantum healing hypnosis specifically for money. I hope you don't hear my dog because she's kind of coughing in the background all of a sudden. Probably a sign I should go check on her and I should stop talking. But there's a free hypnosis training, a money mindset training, and then a quantum healing hypnosis to change your energetic signature towards money. It is powerful. I've had people listen to this once and they've woken up to thousands of dollars being returned suddenly in tax things that they didn't expect from years before, or new clients or their best income days. And I've had people, listen to it, yeah, multiple times and change the entire trajectory of their career path and their timeline. Like, it is powerful, which is why I recommend to do the free training for 21 days straight, because you're literally going to blast your entire consciousness around money and see yourself, your past, your present, your future in a completely new way. And it's really cool and it's really life changing and will align you with believing you're worthy and capable and ready for so much more. As well, I've also got a quantum healing hypnosis bundle with multiple different activations and hypnosis recordings that is linked below or in the description somewhere as well. And that has a lot of the ones I talked about on today's episode, where we're really changing your energetic signature and creating a new wealth blueprint, really changing the beliefs, the identity, all the things to match the money that you're wanting to call in. And just like the free recording, these are things you can listen to at any time for any level. It doesn't matter what you're wanting to attract. So you could be wanting to bring in $10, or you could be wanting to bring in 10 million. Doesn't matter what stage you're at in the game, because like I said, money is relative. So the next level is always a challenge when we're not at it yet. 10K months were a challenge when I wasn't there, and then once I was there, it was like, oh, okay, well, now how do I get to the 20K, right? The new level always grows with you. So if you have the tools to reprogram yourself and align with that next level, that's really all you need ever to keep getting there. So those are all linked below. Give them a try, check it out, and start welcoming in the abundance that is your divine birthright, and do amazing things with it, not only for yourself, because you deserve to live abundantly and have a beautiful human experience while you're here, but also to benefit the planet and give back and be able to ripple and overflow and just show up from even more safety and support and love, because you're provided for and you have your safety, your security, your needs met, and now you can share your gifts more lovingly in the world as well. So it benefits everyone when we have more abundance, when we have more wealth, because good people do good things with money. And if you're here listening, I know you are a good person, because you wouldn't be listening to me otherwise. Because I attract people with really nice hearts. So I'm going to end it here, and I'm sending you so much love and so much abundance, and we will talk soon.